This is a CEREC guide preview that was launched in September of 2015, namely CEREC Guide 2.0. CEREC Guide 1.0 involved a very cumbersome process that was prone to a lot of error, where you would have to actually use some thermoplastic material, apply it to a model, or do it intraorally, and place a radiographic marker, small, medium, or large, and scan the patient with that thermoplastic between their mouth, and then do some design work and mill out a button that you would place inside of the thermoplastic material, and then use these handles and keys and spoons provided by the manufacturer and perform the surgery. Very cumbersome, very, very prone to error, very difficult to use. The most important thing that has carried over from the CEREC Guide 1 process to the CEREC Guide 2 process is the fact that we can mill now single unit surgical stents. So what I mean with single units is that you can perform surgery with only one implant. You can't plan multiple implants in a surgical stent that you can mill chairside. And they include the sizes of large, medium, and small. And something very important to keep in mind is that the diameter inside the large, the medium, and the small were 6.0, 5.3, and 4.5 respectively. So along the lines of these blocks that you'd have to and you'd mill with your CEREC machine, you also had corresponding keys for each particular implant line, and more often than not, each line of keys will let you perform partial guided surgery, but not allow you to perform fully guided surgery. You can actually place the implant through the surgical stent and these keys. So it's a little bit different than a fully guided implant line kit you may have had from Astra or Straumann or Camlog or whatever line it may be. It was very specifically built, keys and handles, to handle the small, medium, and large blocks for CEREC Guide 1. Now, what you have to go through the process is take a CEREC scan and relate the CEREC scan as you normally would to the cone beam scan, and use multiple points so they can tripod and adhere the cone beam image to the CAD/CAM scan, and you start planning your implant design. And once you're finished with your implant design, you right-click on the implant itself, and from there you would activate the sleeve. So let's say you're happy and you're satisfied with the position of the implant like you see there, and you've have it in the accurate dimensions and the accurate placement and the right draw with regards to your restoration and your surgical consideration, you would right click and pick the edit sleeve button. And when you do that, you'll have the choices for picking either the small, medium, or large feature of this CEREC guide. And it's really important to remember that the amount of space or the edentulous area that's available to you in the particular clinical situation is what determines what type of sleeve you choose. So here we click on Edit Sleeve, we go to Change, and we go to Select the System, and you'll see the CEREC Guide 2 system chosen, and you see how there's 3 types of sleeves available to you. And all the dimensions are spelled out within this CCAT software, the Galaxis software, for the small, medium, and large. And furthermore, you also need to account for, besides the size of the sleeve, the position of it, or the D2. Now with CEREC Guide 1, you would take the largest drill or the longest drill and you would subtract 1 millimeter from that, and that's what you would set your D2 setting at, because the key you would use with the system for CEREC Guide 1 would be offset by 1 millimeter. So you'd have to take that into consideration. So you can see the sleeve chosen for this particular case is quite large and is bumping into the adjacent teeth, and you will likely not be able to do guided surgery where it fits in there. What's great about this now is if you're an advanced user, you can actually now modify the D2 settings and pick the appropriate size sleeve, and keep all these things into consideration when you're doing surgery, so that you can bypass adjacent teeth and be able to perform fully guided surgery when you want to. Generally, the amount of edentulous space, just like any other guided case, is determined by the amount of space you have in the edentulous area. So once you have designed that in the Galaxis software, you export it and re-import it back into the CEREC software. You define the areas or the extent of where you want your surgical stent to fit to. You set the path of insertion or the axis of insertion, and then you have a proposal that's given for the surgical stent. And you have numerous options where you have a buccal approach or a lingual approach where you can have these areas filled in that are in the red. You can have windows open on the mesial and distal contacts. You can, within the software, tell the software to grind out areas that may be bumping into the model, or namely the tissue or the bone. And once you're finished with the design of the surgical stent, then you go ahead and can process it within the CEREC guide block that's provided to you. And you can make this as large as you want, or as lengthy as you want. You need the grinder burrs and the appropriate filters. And once a surgical stent is milled, you can see from these clinical photos that they are very intimately adapted to tooth structure, and they approximate the form of the tooth structure very, very nicely. These are for Omni scans. So once a surgical stent is made, here is a sample one. You can spend the time to refine this and make it look real nice and clean, and polish it so that it's more presentable. But here's the chief difference now, is once you have control over the D2 setting and the position of the sleeve, where there's a small, medium, and large, and we can have our own custom rings made. This was made from Burbank Dental Lab. Now, because I know the internal and outside diameters, I can actually place a sleeve within the stent, do my surgical protocol, and even place my implant through the surgical sleeve itself and do fully guided surgery. And each implant line has its unique features, and they're all detailed on the Cadre website, and with all the dimensions and parameters are. So you don't even need to purchase any new surgical kits or any new buttons or handles or keys for any new system. You can certainly use your previous fully guided kit, or you can start exploring the option of being able to do the surgery without using any kind of spoons and handles, which are an absolute nightmare in the back of the mouth.